I'm Paul Wilson, I'm the IT manager for Octavia Housing. Octavia Housing is a housing association that's been around for about 100 years and manages about 4,000 social housing properties within Westminster and Kensington and Chelsea. The challenges we faced with our printing strategy were primarily that something like 60 to 70% of our printers were 5 or more years old and due for replacement anyway. We were a little bit reluctant to go ahead with just replacing like with like because we felt there ought to be a better solution out there.
My relationship with Octavia Housing goes back to the late 80s when they started off as St Marylebone Housing, not a million miles from this new site, and sold them their first analog in those days copier.
My relationship with Octavia Housing started probably about 12 months ago. I was called into a second meeting with Paul Marshman, who's the account manager here, to pick up on a report we'd conducted with the Insatsu Chosa consultancy team, which had analysed printing and document production within Octavia.
Danwood resolved the issues by coming to us with a lease proposal which proposed that we had 14 printers replacing around about 35, that all the printers should be capable of copying, scanning as well as printing, and that we would implement the pool printing solution using the same cards that we use for our door access within the building, which would resolve the security issues. Our experience also shows that something like 10% of the print jobs that are sent to the printers are no longer printed, and that in itself has, in the 8 weeks or so we've had the solution in place, saved us at least 6,000 sheets of paper. We do our best to operate in as green a fashion as possible. And one of the nice features of the SafeCom software is it actually has a little save-o-meter which tells us exactly what we have saved through print jobs that have been sent to the print queue but never printed. At the moment it shows something like 10% of print jobs that are sent have never been printed, and it actually reads out in the number of trees you saved. We're still working our way to our first tree.
Historically, Octavia had used a transactional purchase model for all of their devices. So, for example, they bought their photocopiers through Paul at Outers, but for cash, and they bought a lot of their printers online. So, trying to take them away from that presented certain challenges. But with the use of the Insatsu Chosa report, we gave them quite a holistic view of how to use their equipment a bit more effectively.
Well, the most attractive parts of the solution were security, because we definitely had instances of very, very sensitive paperwork being left lying around in printers, reducing the number of printers overall by having a higher quality of printer than we could have afforded if we'd simply gone out and purchased them, and also just to reduce the overall cost of printing.
Group resources played an important role within helping us secure this tender. Insatsu Chosa helped us gauge a true holistic understanding of the way the company, Octavia, was using their printers and copiers, and certainly identified challenges they were facing in their document workflow. But special mention has to go to a guy from the software support team by the name of Michael McLean. Before we asked him to be involved in the meetings, we were predominantly talking about just output production devices, but he was able to come in and discuss with them their document workflow, and then identify a piece of software, which in this case was SafeCom, which could help them manage the workflow, reduce wastage within the business, and help them control costs moving forwards.
We chose to go with Danwood because we've had a very long-standing relationship with the salesman that we've used over the years, Paul Marshman. He came from Altus AdTech, who we originally used as a photocopier supplier, and when Altus AdTech were taken over by Danwood, it gave much more scope to do interesting things, and the extra resources that Danwood were able to provide gave us a much wider choice of solutions. Our relationship with Danwood in the past has always been very, very good, and we expect in the future to continue that relationship. What we've done so far has worked very well with the culture of the organisation.
Danwood are very effective at asking good questions of clients to help ascertain key limitations within their printing infrastructure. Although I've mentioned that Insatsu Chosa was very, very useful, probably even before that we were approaching the project in a consultative manner, asking the right sort of questions to really understand how the business operated. Because when you've got a good understanding of how the business operates, and then you find limitations in the way they're working, it becomes a lot easier to sell a solution which solves a lot of those problems. From their point of view, I think what became a win-win was we were able to prevent a viable solution and win the business, which was a win for us. But for them, we were able to put something in place which really helped Octavia work a lot more effectively.